peeps, this is melbourne.yathri here. Welcome to episode 5 of our new home construction series. So moving on from the set out process, now we would be looking at Piers Boring as well as Piers Pouring. What actually happens here is a structural engineer would go ahead and design the number of piers and the depth of piers based on the type of soil, the slope of the current land available above there, and the kind of fill soil that is actually used as part of your cut and fill process that you have completed till now in your home construction. Okay, so for me, the slab that I've chosen was a waffle pot slab. We will discuss a bit more detail of them ahead in this episode. In the waffle pot slab, the structural engineer has gone ahead and designed for me based on my own, home's soil conditions. Around 62 piers were needed, and it varied across 3 different depths. Okay, and typically the basis for all of this engineering is actually based on your soil test report. So there were actually 3 different holes dug in the piece of land that I actually had where I was building my home, and there, based on the type of soil structure and where they were able to get a solid clay structure or a solid like a rock structure, that's where these piers will be gone ahead and actually placed all the way down in the ground. And because these were actually at 3 different depths across the diagonal of the site, hence we are actually having 62 piers at 3 different depths spread across my site. Now this is what where you're seeing the reinforcement of the piers is being used, but typically piers is nothing but they would go ahead and drill holes. You would actually get a machine up out there on the site, and the machine will keep drilling holes wherever the piers are actually marked. In this particular image, you can definitely see that the one of the piers is actually being poured, a couple of them, and then based on the depth of the pier, metal reinforcement or basically steel reinforcement is used here. Now these are actually the steel cages which are used for the reinforcement. If you want to take a closer look at it, it would actually go ahead and look in this way, and then this is where you can see inside the hole that clearly the reinforcement has been put in. Now there is a engineering calculation again to this. The structural engineer, based on that type of soil, the composition of soil at your site, and the depth that they're actually putting piers, would go ahead and suggest for each pier or each type of pier what kind of reinforcements are needed over and above basically the concrete that is getting poured in. Once the piers are bored and then actually poured, that means concrete is poured in the piers, then what happens is there is a little bit of leveling and gravel put on top of it, okay, across the plant, and multiple levels on is actually formed based on how your slab is actually getting designed. And then the next thing that actually happens is plumbing earthworks. So you basically have the plumbers come in, and they also have digging machines bought along with them, and these plumbers would go ahead and dig all across, okay, the perimeter of your slab, and then actually lay the agri drains. There will be definitely an engineering drawing that explains the extent to which the agri drains are getting laid across the slab area. This is again dependent on your soil, composition of the soil, all that is actually taken care of it. And then how many number of silt pits are actually needed, so that in case of these agri grains getting choked in the future, you can actually use them to go ahead and actually clean them, will get decided. And then crushed porous rock is actually laid on top of these basically agri drains once they're actually buried deep in the ground. So once the plumbing is actually completed, the underground pumping is completed, as you can see, you will actually see all these pipes stick out from the ground. Now these are pipes are used for multiple purposes. Sometimes these pipes are actually used to push in your water or gas pipes from one part of the room to the other part of the room. For example, from your main kitchen to your island bench. Some of these pipes, like the blue ones that you're looking there, are actually used for I think the showers, and the pink ones are actually used for toilets. The other pipes are actually used for wash basins or faucets that you're actually having. And then obviously you can also see the piers being distributed all across. I mean, I had 60 piers, man, so obviously you have a pier at anywhere you actually move across in my home, kind of thing. That's because of the soil in which I'm actually trying to build the house. Okay, and these are actually the plumbing is distributed all across. So when you're building a waffle pod slab, most of the underground plumbing that is actually done is completed way before the slab, and hopefully you need not actually cut through your slab forever. So remember to always check your plumbing drawings and agree or disagree or get any changes done in case if you disagree way ahead, because once the plumber comes, takes and goes ahead and put these pipes, there is no more turning back. Next is actually the electrical earthworks, where you would just basically get, an electrical contractor would come in, would actually dig up, have connections with the mains electrical connection. Now your mains electrical connection could be either underground or overground, based on the area that you're living in. That actually line is actually pulled up, and they're going to have a small electrical box been put in there. Okay, and then that electrical box will also have your meter inside it, and it'll actually have some preliminary electrical fusings and stuff, so that people don't overdraw current, or even the workers who are actually coming there, the tradies, don't overdraw current, the tradesmen. And yeah, and then finally water to the home is actually put in, and this what you're seeing here is actually the main pipe coming in from the water meter to the home. And from here the rest of the plumbing will happen once they actually build the in the frame stage. So that is actually called roughing. So we'll go to it in the upcoming episodes, but for now this is the work that is actually completed with respect to underground plumbing for your sewage, for basically your any other kind of cables that needs to be passed under the ground, any kind of what you call pipes that need to be passed under the ground, your water connection, your basically gas pipes that need to be passed in case if there are anything going under the ground. Most of the times they don't try to pass gas cables under the ground, but if they are, then separate pipes will be laid for them to be actually passed across. And then the other thing is your electrical connection, which will be done underground electrical. The waffle pod slab, as you can see, is nothing but consists of a lot of waffle pads. And the reason why they call it waffle is because it looks like the waffle that we eat. You basically have that checkered pattern all across. Now this is nothing but polystyrene blocks, and these are specific dimensions for these blocks. The standard sizes actually come across to your side, they just get dumped, and the people who actually do this particular stage called as boxing stage, go ahead and actually lay this waffle pod slabs all across. Now in this stage that you can see, right, as in the video insert, there is a reinforcement mesh that is being put. Okay, and the reinforcement mesh is actually withheld in their location at a particular height using these plastic caps. Okay, incidentally these plastic caps are actually situated perfectly facing the sky. Sometimes they're situated cross because they have to maintain a perfect level across, so that when the slab is poured. Similarly, reinforcement steel bars are actually put in, okay, below the waffle pod. Sometimes they're actually also put in above the waffle pod. The entire calculation, this is the styrofoam that you're able to look at it. So there will also be reinforcement on top of the waffle pod. Then you're also going to have special rebates for your what you call the water heater system that you're going to go ahead and use. Now in the same stage, if you can see that before even the waffle pod is put, you are actually having like a black cloth, or basically a non-permissible plastic thing that has actually been put across. Now my guess is it's plastic. If any one of y'all know the composition of this particular material, please go ahead and share. So on top of that particular material is where either you will find some reinforcement before the waffle pod in in only a few areas. Typically that's actually in the corners of your slab, and most of the times the reinforcement of metal which is actually there that you can see is on the top of the waffle pod. Okay, and then in this particular case, wherever there has been holes been made, so that the existing drainage piping that has been done, the underground piping is accommodated. They also actually get the anti-termite protection caps actually above there. You see the pink color round cap along the tube, that's the anti-termite protection one, which is above there. That is to actually prevent termites coming in from the ground and then into the flooring, and actually spoiling the whole house up. So that's where it is, right? And yeah, to basically hold the waffle pods in its location, you can see this black kind of fixture that is used in the bottom, and that actually holds the particular rows and the columns are in which these waffle pods are actually laid out. And the waffle pods are also laid out at multiple heights based on the different heights in your slab. The typical configuration that we are actually seeing across in Victoria, or at least that is there in my home, is the slab for the garage is always lower than the slab for the main house. Okay, so the main house slab is actually the highest point, okay, across, whereas the slab for the garage is actually slightly lower. uh, and then the slab for the alfresco is even bit lower, and the porch is actually the lowest height in terms of the slab which is being poured. And with the tremendous amount of hard work by the tradesmen and the magic of actually video editing, voila, we have the slab. You can see the slab being poured. This was basically when the slab was getting dried up, all across. You can see the multiple levels in the slab. You can see the garage height is actually the main house height is actually the tallest this thing. Then you have the garage height, and then you actually have the porch height actually below. And then you could see most of this being shown. No, at the same time, when the slab is being poured, a little bit of rebate is actually allowed for your bricks to be laid, and that's what is being actually shown across out there. And then once you actually see this, most of these pipes are sealed off, so there is no termites actually going in for anti-termite protection. Okay. And yeah, I mean, if you want to go ahead and look at the rest of the slab, please be my guest. Typically there is a step allowed out there based on what type of house you're building. If yours is a brick winner house like what I'm building, then you'll have rebate being provided. Rebate is nothing but that extra concrete one step down that is being put in up out there is being provided for a single brick to be laid across, and the frame would be on actually the topmost piece of the concrete. This is basically my alfresco area, which is nothing but just a blob of concrete all across. That's how it is. So concrete gets poured and it gets smoothened up as much as possible. Don't be stunned if you have rough edges, if you don't have proper edging in this kind, because most of this edging is supposed to be under the ground, or at least filled up with some amount of topsoil around it, rather than just being actually exposed in that way. Or some people prefer to have decking that would cover from your alfresco coming out into your backyard. So that's how it is. Okay, and this is my slab getting actually uh, dried up after a shower. After this, yeah, there was a bit of rains at that time, and freshly timber got delivered. And yeah, that's me. Hello everyone. That's me trying to fly my drone and trying to take few images of the slab, because this is the most exciting part of the house. This is exactly when you will see what is the base area on top of which your actual house is going to be built. All this time you might have only seen or at least I have only seen my house only on plans. Okay, if it was just on a piece of paper, irrespective of the size of paper that you're going to print, and the markings that you can go into on the land, there is no other satisfaction than actually seeing the slab for your home. And by the by, in this particular case, it's called a slab because we only have concrete slabs on the ground. Our roofs are actually not made of concrete in Victoria, so that's how it is, right? And then wherever you see this uh, pink and yellow ones, I think one out of them is actually for shower and the other one is for toilet. To be honest, I don't know which is what. I got to go back and check my plumbing drawing to it. But then the slab actually, for the first time, with your eye you can actually gauge the size of the house that is going to be actually built out there. And then you get the size of proportionality of your house by looking at the slab. So it's if you ask me, it's a very what you call a satisfying movement, but at the same time a very surreal movement, because once the slab is poured, the rest of the stages actually happen at a much more faster pace. And then basically this is where most of the construction guys say that the phase of the construction has now come above ground, and the pace will be much more faster than what it was before in terms of getting the activities completed, right? Yeah, I mean, it was very exciting for us. It was completely poured off in one day, and the boxing only took for one day. So we normally thought maybe the boxing will be left out for another couple of days, but no. The I think the type of concrete composition that you're using here is basically to ensure that it settles pretty quickly. So even the boxing was removed by evening. But these guys work very hard. People involved in this business, because I have actually seen them work from morning 6 a.m. almost all up to 4 or 5 p.m. That's like what, a 10 hour, 11-hour shift, and it's continuous hard work, physical labor, and it's not easy, man. It's not easy. I'm telling you, irrespective of anyone who actually works in the field, I mean, that's a very tough job to do, man. I mean, when compared to other fields, it's a tough job. I mean, it's physically very tough and also mentally challenging. You got to get all the levels right. You can't have sloped too much. You can't have it sloped too less. You can't mess around with the concrete composition. There are so many things to be actually take care by self, and it has to be bubble free. You cannot have bubbles come across once the slab is poured. You cannot have cracks coming up across once the slab is poured. A lot of hard work actually goes into it, and when you actually notice these people who are actually doing this boxing and slab process, they make it look so easy, as if someone is just basically sitting there and eating ice cream, watching their favorite program on Netflix or any other show. Anyway, so that's the base stage. I was very, very excited. I'm still very excited whenever I look at these videos. And yeah, we will be catching up again in the next stage, which would be the frame stage. So looking forward to catch up with y'all. Well, signing off for now. Have a wonderful time. Cheers.